Chapter 3. Lemming Effect. I can calculate the motion of heavenly bodies, but not the madness of people. By Isaac Newton. As the information age gushes new conveniences, choices, and devices that think for us, humanity has progressed from contemplating tomes, such as War and Peace, to following tweets. We think we can do more in less time. In some ways we can. More commonly, we go wider, not deeper, to the point of multitasking our way into superficiality. Or, as the Charlie Rose interview with Bill Gates and Warren Buffett is entitled, "Busy is the New Stupid." Find it on YouTube. Throw in the desire for acceptance by peers, a sense of community, and occasional confirmation bias, we succumb to the sensation of being right or in the know. We hate to be wrong. We hate spending too much time on anything, especially when confronted with choices. No wonder we oversimplify complex questions, then rationalize rash answers. We've all done it, unless the topic is so confounding and unpleasant that we deny the possibility of it ever occurring, by process of aversion, a la Susan and Walt. We much prefer checking off boxes to solve our problems or cover our bases. Too often, that feeds a false sense of security or benefits mirage, as in the case of Francine and Ernest. Benefits mirage. Ernest earns $100,000 per year at age 50 managing a distribution hub for a grocery chain. His employer offers a dizzying list of benefits. Medical insurance, being healthy, he can choose their high-deductible plan. General term life, $50,000 employer-paid life insurance as long as he works there. Supplemental term life. He could buy up to 3 times his annual salary as long as he works there. If he leaves, he can port it, but it costs more. He opts for the max. Short-term disability. 60% of his pay for the first 90 days of disability. He makes good money and has banked a month of paid leave, so he waives this option. Long-term disability. 60% of his pay, up to $4,000 a month for the first 91st day of his disability until age 65, employer paid. Francine earns $28,000 per year at age 48 as an administrative assistant for a local auto body shop. She has no employer benefits, but gets her medical, dental, vision coverage through Ernest's employer. They're empty nesters who take up four-wheeling in the backcountry. One weekend, they decide to try riding at the sand dunes. Tracks from a wild assortment of all-terrain vehicles crisscross the dunes. There are no trails. It's wide open. Ernest leads the way slanting up a dune when another vehicle crests from the other side, catches air, and crashes on top of Ernest's ATV. Francine watches in horror while following about 30 yards behind Ernest. Life Flight arrives to extricate Ernest and take his limp body to the county ER. Ernest survives, but never works again. His neck is broken in 3 places. As much as his employer attempts to accommodate his physical limitations, Ernest has frequent, intense headaches that prevent him from being able to concentrate on a task. Expenses up. Since the accident was off the job, he is ineligible for workers' compensation. Ernest maxes out his medical out-of-pocket expenses that year at $6,000. Their medical insurance covers only $3,000 of the $30,000 out-of-network Life Flight bill, leaving a $27,000 balance. Francine hires a contractor to modify their home's entry and main bathroom for wheelchair access, costing about $10,000. No longer employed, Ernest must choose between keeping his employer health insurance through COBRA or going on the health insurance exchange. Since he maxed this year's out-of-pocket medical expenses and is incurring large bills that are now 100% covered, he opts for COBRA. As an employee, his health insurance for him and Francine was $300 a month. Through COBRA, it cost $1,500 a month. With COBRA starting in September, his premium for the year is $4,800, more than as an employee. This first year, their additional expenses total around $47,500. Francine wishes she could buy a vehicle that makes it easier to transport Ernest, but it's financially impossible. Income down. Not having elected short-term disability, they eat into their savings to cover normal living expenses for 2 months after Ernest cashes out his 1 month of paid leave. Francine becomes his full-time caregiver, shuttling him to doctor appointments and physical therapy. Her $28,000 salary is gone. After 90 days, Ernest's long-term disability payments begins. 60% of $10,000 is $60,000, or $5,000 per month. Wait, 60% is capped at $4,000, so that's his monthly payment, not $5,000. Wait, because his employer paid the premium, he's taxed on that $4,000. Their combined income drops from $128,000 to $48,000. There's little doubt Ernest will qualify for Social Security disability, but that will take a year. And the SSDI payments will reduce his long-term disability payments dollar for dollar. So getting the SSDI will be a lot of work with no net income benefit, though it will get Medicaid coverage for Ernest, but not for Francine. With their slashed income, Ernest can't afford the premium for porting his $300,000 supplementary term life policy from his former employer. The $50,000 general term life disappears as well. Perhaps you're thinking he should sue the driver of the ATV that hit him. Well, that driver had injuries too, though not as serious. He could sue Ernest for being where he shouldn't have been. Sand dune enthusiasts know the normal route at that location, and it favors the driver who went airborne from the side opposite where Ernest was driving. Recall that Ernest and Francine were new to this area. Neither party can secure an attorney because the case is too tenuous either way. If they don't need it, they sell it. If they can get by without fixing something, they let it go. 5 years later, at age 55, Ernest succumbs to complications associated with his injuries. Francine has no husband, no job, no life insurance benefits coming in, while facing even minimalist funeral expenses of several $1,000s. She's fried, broke, the car is junk, and the house is dilapidated. They drained Ernest's 401k to make ends meet, and they didn't realize how grossly expensive that could be. Every dollar withdrawn was taxable income, plus penalty on some of it. In so doing, they missed out on thousands of dollars per year of premium tax credits when COBRA ended. And Francine had to get individual health insurance on the exchange. In short, expenses skyrocketed while income and assets plummeted. Quality of life hit rock bottom. Overwhelmed, some of their financial choices were foolish. But they didn't know what they didn't know. Retirement? Francine is starting from scratch at age 53. Feeling like 73. How did this happen? Ernest had worked for a great company with great benefits. Ernest had checked off disability income and life insurance from his list of protection you ought to have. He thought he was covered. Yes and no. In his case, it turned out yes, for about a third of the disability insurance he needed, and no for his employee-sponsored life insurance. Nobody explained the details and gotchas. Frankly, few employees would listen to that if someone had tried. Most employees go with the flow, checking off a few boxes during open enrollment, then moving on with a false sense of security. They could pull up the many pages of details online. It's the information age, after all. But who reads that stuff? As much as you now know you should read that stuff before you or your spouse checks off boxes at work, will you? Or would you rather have someone knowledgeable explain it? What if that someone were also looking out for your endgame? Might that be valuable? I think so. If you agree, you'll want to recall this story when you walk through my criteria for selecting your KYL team leader in Chapter 9. Mystique of Mass Marketing Masters. Because life is becoming more complicated, we're inundated with information, and we want to be right. So the idea is compelling that we can subscribe to a guru who tells us what we need to know and, by golly, protect us from swindlers. That the idea is compelling makes it ripe for mass marketing. If you're reading this book, then you're likely not part of the mass market. Congratulations! But you have plenty of friends who are comfortably numbed by mass marketers, who in the field of personal finance are primarily entertainers. That's fine for entertainment. Not so much for life-defining, often irreversible decisions. Consider Ernest again. Until 2 years before his accident, he had his own life insurance policy, but the guru on the radio had convinced him he'd not need life insurance after their kids were gone and their debts were paid off. Ernest felt he was going the extra mile with his employee-sponsored life insurance. How do you think Francine feels about that guru now? Mass marketers operate at about a fifth-grade level. This allows for an attractive combination of 80% common sense and 20% pure posture, poised as sound bites and lots of thou shalt and thou shalt not absolutisms. Those guardrails offer the guise of simplifying the complex. Buy the book, take the course, rub the bottle 3 times. You'll be fine. Some mass marketers flip that combination to 80% posture and 20% common sense. For example, I hate cars, and you should too. Unspoken is because I sell yachts. I admire these gurus for their marketing mastery, and you should too. They are massively successful selling their wares and keeping their tribes aligned with their my way or highway righteousness. If you find fun in financial entertainment, then here's how to profit from your amusement. Note the issues, lessons, and positions that you think are relative to you. Compile your notes to have ready when you consult your KYL team. Discussed in Part C. When you do, remember that your chosen advisors are working in your best interest, whereas entertainers have no such obligation. Your team, by design, will bring you the best of the best, with essentially zero chance of your being swindled. Water cooler wisdom. Take Social Security as soon as you can, before it's gone. Social Security could be fixed on a napkin. Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill did it in the spring of '83, a couple of months before it would go bust. Future leaders in Washington, D.C. will likewise wait until the last minute, because they hope their side will have the majority so they can claim to be Social Security's salvation. Since Social Security checks withhold Medicare payments, I must mention here that Medicare is in trouble. Its Part A trust fund is expected to go bust in 2026, as you can see in the following diagram from page 25 of the 2019 Annual Report of the Boards of Trustees of the Federal Hospital Insurance and Federal Supplementary Medical Insurance Trust Funds. For perspective on government estimates, the 2017 report showed the line reaching 0% in 2030. 2 years later is projected to tank 4 years sooner. My taxes will be lower during retirement. Sure, if you're poor, or if you've been strategically positioning the bulk of your retirement income sources for many years to be tax-free when you take them. Our national debt is a math problem. Politicians can ignore math for so long until the math becomes overwhelming. If nothing else, they'll need to fund Medicare. Fund means open your wallet. If you're married, when your spouse passes away, Uncle Sam rewards you with a tax increase. When you have to file your return as single, the standard deduction you're used to will be halved, as will the thresholds to reach the higher brackets. I've got a pension. Maybe. Federal pensions are backed by the U.S. Treasury printing press. Other pensions are only underfunded by a mere $6 trillion. The pension plans in the states of Kentucky, New Jersey, Illinois, Connecticut, and Colorado are less than 50% funded. The lists get longer for local governments, corporations, and unions. Your pension demands your attention and that of your KYL team. Pay off your house as soon as you can. Paying off one's house is a fine emotional trophy. It might even make sense financially if you're worried you'd spend the extra payments rather than be a smart investor. Let's say that Jane is in her 50s and owes $100,000 on her mortgage at 4% interest. She has $100,000 in a liquid account, meaning she can access the money whenever she wants, earning 4% interest, net of taxes. On paper, her home is paid for. She could write the check if she wanted to, but she's too savvy to do that. She knows that if she were to lose her job or become disabled, she could not access her home's equity without selling it. She's under 62, so ineligible for a reverse mortgage. She also knows her $100,000 is protected from creditors and suers, that it can net 6%, that it will grow without ever being taxed again. Keeping that money out of her house affords her valuable options: liquidity, use, and control. Might you want a robust sounding board for what you repeatedly hear before acting on it? We conclude Part A. with a look at our tendency to avoid attorneys before things get out of control. Parts B and C will delve into these water cooler wisdom topics in more depth. Reflection. Regarding benefits available to you through work, check all that apply. I've reviewed them myself and am confident that I'm taking full advantage of them for my situation. I know which benefits I can keep, when I leave or retire, and what they will cost. I know which benefits are tax advantaged and how that works. Unanswered questions linger. Not applicable to me. Your approach to Social Security is: A. I know how to optimize it for us, me if single. B. Take it ASAP before it disappears. C. I'm not sure. Do you hold rigid viewpoints on any retirement or estate planning topic based on having heard these viewpoints repeatedly? A. No. B. Yes. If you want your team to help you create solutions, you want them to consider blank of the tools available. A. 1. B. Some. C. All. What other thoughts and questions come to mind?